Denis Potvin was the fastest defenseman to reach 500 points in NHL history, hitting the milestone in just 620 games. But even more than his 4 Stanley Cup wins and 3 Norris trophies as the league's best defenseman, Potvin left a lasting mark on the game. At 6 feet nothing and 205 pounds, he combined strength with skill, moving with a speed and finesse that set him apart. He wasn't just a shutdown defenseman, he was an offensive weapon from the blue line. While Bobby Orr had already revolutionized the role of defenseman, Potvin took that blueprint and perfected it with a more physical edge. He proved that a defenseman could dominate both ends of the ice, scoring goals while still being an elite defender. Ask any hockey fan from the 1970s and 80s, and they'll tell you, Potvin was the player every young defenseman wanted to be. And even though opposing fans, especially in New York, loved to hate him, they couldn't deny his impact on the game. The New York Islanders' rise to dominance wouldn't have been possible without Denis Potvin. When he was drafted first overall in 1973, the team was still recovering from a brutal inaugural season with just 12 wins. But Potvin wasn't just another high draft pick. He was the foundation of a championship culture. His rookie season proved he was special, winning the Calder Trophy as the league's best rookie. By the time he became captain in 1979, the Islanders were no longer just a promising team. They were a powerhouse. Under his leadership, they didn't just win, they dominated, securing 4 consecutive Stanley Cups from 1980 to 1983. His fearless style of play set the tone, whether he was quarterbacking the power play or delivering bone-crushing hits. Even as opposing fans taunted him, especially in New York with the infamous "Potvin sucks" chant, he embraced the role of villain, proving his greatness with every game. Few players in NHL history have so completely defined an era of success the way Potvin did for the Islanders. The New York Islanders of 1973 were a mess. In their first season, they won just 12 games, one of the worst records in NHL history. Their blue line struggled, allowing a staggering 347 goals, and their best defenseman managed only 20 points all season. Fans were already losing hope. Even with a brand new arena in Nassau Coliseum, attendance hovered around 11,000 per game, far from a packed house. The team tried everything, from changing coaches twice to trading for veteran players, but nothing worked. What they needed wasn't just a good player, they needed someone who could change their entire identity. From his very first game, Potvin made an impact. In his NHL debut against the Atlanta Flames, he set the tone with physical play and confident puck handling. The crowd at Nassau Coliseum had never seen anything like it. A defenseman who could hit like a freight train but handle the puck like a skilled forward. His aggressive style immediately put him on the radar, and veterans around the league took notice. But being labeled the next Bobby Orr came with massive pressure. Every time Potvin stepped on the ice, people expected miracles. Early in his rookie season, he faced growing pains. The media scrutinized his every mistake, and opposing fans loved to jeer him. During a rough stretch, his scoring slowed, and some critics questioned whether he was truly ready for the NHL. Then came the turning point, a matchup against the powerhouse Montreal Canadiens. Potvin played one of his best games yet, proving he could compete with the league's best. He delivered crushing hits, played shutdown defense, and contributed on the score sheet, sending a message across the NHL. The kid was for real. Despite the personal success, the Islanders still had a long way to go, but something had shifted. The team started drawing bigger crowds, and a sense of excitement began building. In his second season, things really clicked. Potvin's point total jumped to 76, and the Islanders made the playoffs for the first time. In a shocking upset, they beat the New York Rangers in the first round, with Potvin playing a key role. That victory did more than just win a playoff series. It announced that the Islanders were no longer the league's punching bag, and Denis Potvin was the reason why. The most impressive part? His hunger to improve never wavered. His teammates often found him studying game tapes late at night, working to refine his positioning and timing. By the end of his second season, veterans who had once doubted him were now asking for his advice on how to defend against the league's top scorers. Potvin wasn't just adjusting to the NHL, he was taking over. The real turning point in Potvin's career came when Al Arbor took over as head coach in 1973. Unlike previous coaches who just let Potvin do whatever he wanted because of his talent, Arbor had different plans. At first, their relationship was rocky. Arbor would bench Potvin when he tried too many risky plays, something no coach had dared to do before. Potvin hated it, but Arbor stood firm. "If you want to be the best," Arbor told him, You need to learn when to take chances and when to play it safe. This tough love approach worked better than anyone expected. Under Arbor's guidance, Potvin's game went to another level. He still scored plenty of points, but now he rarely got caught out of position. The rest of the team noticed the change too. If their star player was willing to listen and learn, they had no excuse not to do the same. In 1979, Arbor made an even bolder move. He named the 26-year-old Potvin team captain. Some thought it was too soon, especially since there were older players on the team. But Arbor saw something special in Potvin's relationship with his teammates. In practice, he would stay late to help younger defensemen work on their shots. During games, he stood up for every teammate, no matter how small the issue. His leadership style was unique. Before big games, while other captains gave loud speeches, Potvin would often tell jokes to keep the team loose. But when things got tough, he led by example. In one crucial playoff game against Philadelphia, he played through a broken thumb without telling anyone. He scored the winning goal and only afterward went to the hospital. The chemistry between Potvin and his defensive partner, Stefan Persson, became legendary. They barely needed to talk on the ice. They just knew where the other would be. Persson once said, "Playing with Denis was like having a safety net. I could take more risks because I knew he would cover for me, but it wasn't all smooth sailing." In 1979, Potvin faced his biggest challenge. The team had lost in the playoffs again, and some players were starting to doubt their chances of winning it all. During a team meeting, Brian Trottier called out Potvin, saying the team needed more from their captain. Instead of getting defensive, Potvin agreed. The next day, he organized extra practice sessions, focusing on the small details that win championships. That season changed everything. The Islanders started winning, and they didn't stop. From 1980 to 1983, they won 4 straight Stanley Cups. In pressure moments, Potvin was at his best. He set a record for most points by a defenseman in one playoff run with 25. And during their cup streak, he never missed a single playoff game. Even more impressive was how he handled the spotlight. When things went well, he praised his teammates. When they lost, he faced the media and took the blame. Mike Bossy, the team's star scorer, later said, "Denis didn't just make us better players. He made us better professionals. He showed us what it meant to be a leader." The relationship between Potvin and Arbor became so strong that they would often spend hours after practice discussing strategy. Arbor later admitted, "Denis became more than just my captain. He was like a coach on the ice." This trust led to Arbor giving Potvin more freedom to call plays during games, something rarely given to players in that era. By the middle of their championship run, opposing coaches would often say it was like facing 2 coaches instead of 1. The 1981 season was when Denis Potvin proved just how special he was. The Islanders had captured their first Stanley Cup in 1980, but now, with the entire league aiming to dethrone them, the pressure was at an all-time high. Instead of folding under expectations, Potvin thrived. He finished the regular season with 76 points, continuing to be the backbone of the team's defense and a force on offense. But it was in the playoffs where he truly reached another level. In the first round against Toronto, the Islanders wasted no time asserting their dominance, sweeping the Maple Leafs in 3 games. Potvin was at the heart of it all, dictating play at both ends of the ice. The second round against the Edmonton Oilers brought a new challenge, a young Wayne Gretzky and an upstart team eager to make a statement. The hype surrounding the series was undeniable, but the Islanders sent a clear message in Game 1, dismantling Edmonton 8-2 in a statement win. Potvin was everywhere, shutting down Gretzky, creating offensive chances, and setting the tone for the series. The conference finals against the Rangers felt personal. All season long, Rangers fans had tormented Potvin, and now, on hockey's biggest stage, he had the chance to silence them. Game 1 at Madison Square Garden was electric, the crowd roaring with boos every time he touched the puck. Late in the third period, with the game tied, Potvin delivered one of his most iconic plays, stealing the puck, charging up the ice, and setting up the game-winning goal. The Islanders went on to sweep the series, proving once again that they owned New York. The Stanley Cup Finals against the Minnesota North Stars showcased Potvin at his absolute peak. He played massive minutes in Game 1, anchoring the defense with his trademark poise. Game 2 was a masterclass in two-way hockey, as he controlled the pace, delivered key defensive stops, and contributed offensively. But it was Game 5, with the Stanley Cup on the line at home, that cemented his legacy. Early in the game, he took a stick to the face that broke his nose. The team doctor insisted he go to the hospital, but Potvin refused to leave. Blood poured down his face. forcing him to change jerseys multiple times, yet he kept playing. With 5 minutes left and the game tied, he saw his moment. Jumping into the rush, he took a perfect pass from Mike Bossy and fired a laser into the top corner. The building exploded. When the final buzzer sounded, his teammates had to help him off the ice. Completely drained, battered, but victorious. That playoff run was one for the history books. Potvin set records that still stand today, including the most points by a defenseman in a single postseason, 25. Most game-winning goals by a defenseman in one playoff run, 4, and most minutes played in a single postseason. But more than just the numbers, he proved that a defenseman could be the best player on a championship team. The Hockey News called it the finest playoff performance by a defenseman in NHL history. What made his run even more legendary was how he handled everything off the ice. Between games, he spent hours studying film, breaking down opposing power plays, and working with coaches to fine-tune defensive strategies. Even through injuries, he found time to visit a children's hospital, walking in with 2 black eyes and a broken nose, still smiling, still signing autographs, still inspiring everyone around him. This wasn't just a great player at his peak. This was a legend proving exactly why he was one of the greatest to ever play the game. Yes, Denis Potvin had his flaws. His aggressive style sometimes went too far, leading to unnecessary penalties that hurt his team. He was never shy about his confidence, often asserting his place among hockey's best. And after the 4 Stanley Cups, his offensive production declined. He never scored more than 70 points in a season again. Some fans only remember him for the infamous "Potvin sucks" chant that still echoes in NHL arenas today, nearly 4 decades after his playing days ended. But focusing on those things misses the bigger picture. Before Potvin, defensemen were expected to prevent goals, not score them. He changed that forever. Young players today might not realize it, but every time a defenseman joins the rush or fires a shot from the blue line, they're following a path Potvin helped create. He proved that defensemen could be superstars too. Even now, when the conversation turns to the greatest defenseman ever, Potvin's name is always in the mix, not just because of his numbers or Stanley Cups, but because he fundamentally changed how hockey was played. His impact on the game is undeniable, a legacy that continues to shape the sport today. Thanks for watching the rise of one of hockey's greatest game changers. If you enjoyed this look at Denis Potvin's incredible career, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to watch more stories about the legends who changed their sports forever. See you in the next video.